My wife's affair partner boasted, he won't even know what hit him. I smiled and forwarded his words to his wife. Now she knew exactly what hit her. I never thought I'd be in this situation. You hear about it, read about it, maybe even know someone who's been through it. But when it happens to you, it feels different. It feels unreal. I've been married to Natalie for 12 years. We met in college, fell in love fast, and for a long time, I thought we had a good marriage. No kids, just the two of us building a life together. We lived in Austin, Texas, in a nice house, both had good jobs. I own a small IT consulting business, and she's a real estate agent. Looking back, I don't know if I was just blind, too trusting, or if she was always this kind of person and I never noticed. But I noticed now. It started small. I think that's how it always starts. Natalie had always been busy with work, but lately, she'd been working late more than usual. At first, I didn't question it. Real estate isn't a 9-to-5 job, and she often had evening showings or networking events. But something felt different. She started being glued to her phone. Before, she'd leave it on the counter, face up, without a second thought. Now, she took it everywhere. Bathroom. Shower. Even to let the dog out. If I happened to glance at the screen while she was texting, she'd tilt it away. She became distant. Less affectionate. Conversations got shorter. She stopped asking about my day. Some nights, she came home smelling like a different soap, like she had just showered somewhere else. I told myself I was overthinking. That I was being paranoid. That I was imagining things. Then, I saw the message. It was a Tuesday night. She was in the shower, and her phone was on the nightstand. It lit up with a text from a name I didn't recognize, M. I wouldn't normally check her phone, but something about this felt wrong. My gut told me to look. I picked it up. The message read. Can't wait for next time. He won't even know what hit him. I just stared at it. My chest felt tight. My brain tried to make sense of it. I opened the conversation. And that's when my entire world cracked in half. The texts went back for months. M was Marcus. A guy she met through work. They had been meeting up in hotels, sneaking around, and laughing about how I had no idea. She called me boring. Said I was too trusting. Joked about how easy it was to lie to me. One message stood out. He's such a loser. I bet he won't even notice. Let's keep this up until we get bored. LMAO. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I scrolled more. Explicit messages. Plans for their next meetup. References to past hookups. Inside jokes at my expense. I put the phone down. My hands were shaking. I could hear the shower running, completely oblivious to the fact that I was sitting there, discovering everything. I took a deep breath. My first instinct was to confront her right then and there. But I didn't. I needed proof. I knew if I confronted her too soon, she'd deny it, gaslight me, twist things around. I needed her to dig her own grave. First, I took screenshots of everything. The messages, the hotel bookings, the times, the locations. I backed it all up. Then, I set up tracking on her phone. If she wanted to lie about where she was going, I wanted to see it for myself. For the next 2 weeks, I watched. She wasn't just meeting up with Marcus, she was careful. They changed hotels, avoided their usual spots, staggered their arrivals. She would leave the house in her work clothes, but I saw the overnight bag hidden in the back seat of her car. She was meticulous. But not careful enough. I wasn't the only one being lied to. It didn't take long to find Marcus's wife. Sophie. They had 2 kids. A nice house. The perfect little family. I found her Facebook. Scrolled through pictures of their vacations, their anniversary posts. She had no idea. I sat there for a long time, staring at her profile. Wondering if I should tell her. Wondering if I was ready to blow everything up. Then, I remembered the messages. The way they laughed about me. The way they saw me as some clueless idiot. I wasn't clueless anymore. I sent her the screenshots. Every single one. It took her less than an hour to reply. At first, she thought I was lying. Then, I sent more proof. The hotel addresses. The timestamps. The conversations. I don't know what to say. Thank you for telling me. Please, can we meet? So we did. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Sophie looked like she hadn't slept since she saw the messages. She held her coffee but didn't drink it. Her hands were shaking. I had no idea, she whispered. None. Neither did I. We sat there for hours, piecing together the lies. Comparing dates. Filling in the gaps. Then, we made a plan. A week later, I told Natalie I had a work trip. Sophie told Marcus she was visiting her sister. That night, we tracked them. They were at a hotel. Room 203. Sophie and I met in the parking lot. Neither of us spoke for a minute. Then, I pulled out my phone. Ready? She nodded. I walked up to the front desk and booked the room right next to theirs. Then, we ordered room service. To room 203, I told the waiter, handing him a note. Hope you're enjoying the view, sweetheart. We sure are. We waited. The waiter knocked. We heard footsteps. Then, the door opened. Natalie's laughter was the first thing I heard. Muffled but carefree. Like she had no idea her world was about to crash down. Then, Marcus spoke. Room service? I didn't. Silence. Then a quiet, oh, shit. Sophie and I stepped into the doorway, making sure they could see us. Marcus stood there in nothing but a hotel robe, his face pale. Natalie was behind him, wrapped in a sheet, her wet hair proof she had just showered. Her eyes locked on me, and in that moment, I saw it, pure panic. Not guilt. Not regret. Just fear of getting caught. Aaron, she started, but I held up a hand. Save it. I wasn't here for excuses. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and played the recording. He's such a loser. I bet he won't even notice. Let's keep this up until we get bored. Their own words, loud and clear. Sophie folded her arms. How's that for boring? Natalie's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Marcus just stared at his wife like he was hoping she'd disappear. And then, boom. A hotel door down the hall slammed open, and a very angry, very large man stormed out. You cheating sack of shit, he shouted. I jumped back. That wasn't directed at me. It was for Marcus. The guy was huge. Early 40s, built like he lifted bricks for fun. His face was red with rage. He marched straight toward Marcus, fists clenched. Marcus froze. Natalie, to my surprise, gasped in recognition. I turned to Sophie. Who the hell is that? Her voice was cold. That's Eric. And who's Eric? Marcus's boss. Marcus flinched. Natalie went pale. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just an affair. Marcus had been cheating on his wife, with his boss's wife. Eric grabbed Marcus by the collar and slammed him against the wall. You've been screwing my wife? Eric's voice was shaking with rage. Marcus looked at Natalie. Like she was supposed to help him. She just stood there. No words. No excuses. Just the crushing realization that she was in way deeper than she thought. Sophie crossed her arms. Oh, you didn't tell him, she said, tilting her head. That you've been sneaking around with his wife, too? Natalie whipped her head toward Marcus. Wait, what? Marcus looked sick. Eric pressed harder. Yeah, that's right, sweetheart, he spat. Your little boyfriend here. He's been screwing my wife for months. Natalie staggered back like she'd been slapped. I didn't move. I wanted her to feel every single second of this. This isn't. Marcus gasped, still pinned. It's not what it looks like. Oh really? Eric growled. Then why is my wife's name all over your damn phone? He yanked out his own phone and threw it at Marcus. It hit his chest and clattered to the floor. I got the messages. All of them. Marcus looked at me. Like I could help him. I just smiled. Told you I wasn't as stupid as you thought. Natalie finally snapped out of her daze. She rounded on Marcus, shoving him. You've been cheating on me, too? I didn't. Save it, Marcus, she screamed. And then, just like that, she turned to me. I could see it in her face. Desperation. Like maybe she could fix this. Like maybe I'd still be there to catch her when she fell. Aaron, I swear, I laughed. Actually laughed. You're serious right now? I shook my head. You destroyed our marriage, humiliated me, and laughed about it. And now you want to talk. She reached for me. I stepped back. I wouldn't touch you if you were the last person on earth. And for the first time that night, she started crying. Not because she was sorry. Because she knew I was done. Eric finally let Marcus go, shoving him back. "You're fired." Marcus's eyes bulged. "Wait, what? Oh, you think I'm gonna keep you on my payroll after this?" Eric scoffed. "Get your ass out of my company." Marcus stumbled, panic flooding his face. You can't, I already did." He turned to Sophie. "I'm taking the house." Sophie smiled. Cold. Calculated. "I already called my lawyer." Marcus's mouth snapped shut. For the first time, he looked terrified. "Sophie, please, I hope you and Natalie are happy together," she said, voice dripping with venom. Natalie whimpered. I don't want him." Ouch. Even Marcus flinched. Hotel security showed up. Someone must have called them during the yelling. Sophie and I didn't stick around. As we walked out, I could still hear Natalie's crying, Marcus's pathetic pleas, and Eric cursing Marcus to hell and back. Sophie stopped just outside the hotel doors. She took a deep breath. Then she turned to me. "So, what now?" I stared up at the night sky. And for the first time in weeks, I actually felt free. Sophie and I walked out of the hotel into the cool night air. She let out a breath she had probably been holding for hours. I was too. Neither of us spoke at first. We had just destroyed 2 lives in a matter of minutes. And yet, I felt no guilt. Sophie pulled her coat tighter around herself. "I still can't believe it." I nodded, staring at the traffic lights flickering in the distance. "Believe it. We lived it. We both had empty homes waiting for us. Empty beds. Empty spaces where trust used to live." I turned to her. "You need a ride?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "No. I need time. I need to figure out what's next." I understood. So, I just nodded. "Take care, Sophie." She gave me a sad smile. "You too, Aaron." And just like that, we went our separate ways. I pulled into my driveway and just sat in my car. The house felt different now. Not like home. Just a building. A place where lies had lived. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside, and there she was. Natalie. She sat on the couch, eyes red, tissues balled up in her hands. She must have rushed home after the hotel, knowing she had nowhere else to go. She looked up at me, desperate, broken. "Aaron, please." I didn't say anything. I just walked past her, into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking. I wasn't even sure why. Natalie stood at the doorway, watching me. "Say something." I took a long sip, then set the glass down. Finally, I turned to her. "Why?" Her lip trembled. Why him? Why anyone?" Her face crumpled. "I don't know." I slammed my fist on the counter. "That's bullshit. You don't get to sit here and cry and tell me you don't know." She flinched. Was it because you were bored? Because I trusted you too much? Because I wasn't Marcus? Was I too safe?" She sobbed. "I don't know, Aaron. I was stupid, okay?" Stupid?" I let out a hollow laugh. "No, cheating is stupid. Lying is stupid. But months of sneaking around? That's a choice." She wiped at her face. It didn't mean anything. I clenched my jaw. It meant everything to me. And that's when she broke completely. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing into her hands. "I messed up, Aaron. I ruined everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, please don't hate me." I stared at her. This was the woman I loved. The woman I planned a future with. And she had thrown it all away for a man who had been cheating on her the entire time. Something inside me cracked. Not pity. Not anger. Just emptiness. "I don't hate you, Natalie." Her eyes lit up, hopeful. I shook my head. "I just don't love you anymore." And that broke her worse than anything else. She wailed. Begged. Crawled to me, grabbing my hands. "Please don't say that. I can be better. I can fix this. Just tell me what to do." I pulled away. "You can't fix this." Her whole body shook. "Aaron, I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll do anything, just don't leave me." I closed my eyes. Natalie, you left me the second you let him touch you. She sobbed harder. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and headed upstairs. Her voice cracked as she called after me, Aaron, please don't do this. We have 12 years together. I stopped at the top of the stairs. And I finally said the words I knew had been true from the moment I saw those messages. We had 12 years. Then I shut the bedroom door. Natalie didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. By morning, I had made my decision. When I came downstairs, she was sitting on the couch, looking like a ghost of herself. Eyes swollen, hands trembling. She saw the papers in my hands and started crying again. Divorce, she whispered. I nodded. I already spoke to a lawyer. If you don't contest, we can make this easy. She looked at me like she didn't even know who I was anymore. Aaron, are you sure? I exhaled sharply. You cheated on me, Natalie. Lied to me. Humiliated me. She reached for me again. But I love you. I looked down at her. Cold. Detached. No, you don't. And then I set the papers on the table and walked out the door. The divorce was finalized. She tried everything, apologizing, begging, even blaming me for being too distant. But the court didn't care, and neither did I. I got my share of the assets. Sold the house. Moved into a sleek apartment in downtown Austin. And Natalie? Last I heard, she moved into a tiny rental. Lost a good chunk of her real estate clients. Apparently, news spreads fast when you screw over your husband and a guy who got fired from his own boss's company. Oh, and Marcus? Sophie took him for everything. She got the house, the cars, the savings. He moved into some dumpy apartment, struggling to find a job. Turns out, not a lot of companies want to hire a guy who pissed off his very powerful ex-boss. As for Eric? He left his wife too. Moved on. Some people get burned and rebuild stronger. Others? They just turn to ash. People always say revenge isn't worth it. That it doesn't change what happened. And maybe that's true. But when I think back to that hotel, when I saw Natalie's face crumble, when I heard Marcus lose everything in real time, I won't lie. It felt damn good. Some pain doesn't heal. Some people don't deserve second chances. And some betrayals? They burn the whole damn house down. I walked away from the flames without looking back. And I've never felt more free.